Hello, everybody, and welcome to Making Art Public. This week, we have one of our very own art commissioners, who is very near and dear in my heart, because I met this particular art commissioner out in front of the Palm Springs Art Museum. I would love for you all to meet Russell Pritchard. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, fellow Commissioner Shonda, fellow Thomas.
Thank you. So let's get right into it. What made you move to the Coachella Valley?
Okay, we'll start with that little story, and then I'll tell you how I got connected to the Arts Commission.
Okay,
it's a very similar story to you and I meeting.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yes, we'll save that for the next one. But yeah, the interesting thing with me, because I lived for 25 years in San Francisco, where I ran my own home interior and furniture business and showcased art by local artists in 6 store locations that I had spanning the course of 25 years. Mm-hmm. And then back in 2007, in my old neighborhood, we got a wonderful little park put in with a dedicated art oval. So the San Francisco Arts Commission did the first couple of installations, and then all of a sudden the park was empty. So myself and a friend of mine, Madeline, approached the Arts Commission and said, well, what's coming next? And they said, nothing, because we don't have any money. So she and I, being the neighborhood movers and shakers that we were, said, well, if you don't have the money, we can do it. So we formed our own Hayes Valley Art Coalition and did public art installation in the park for 7 years. So that's part of my San Francisco story. So that led up to about 2014. Madeline moved away, and I decided to close my business in January of 2015. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it's okay, I've done this for 25 years. This is my identity. What's going to be my next chapter in life? So being a huge tennis fan, I decided to treat myself to come down to Palm Springs for the Indian Wells tennis tournament in March of that year, staying with my very good friend Susan, who had moved here the previous fall after years of talking about retiring and moving to Palm Springs. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, good for you. I had no indication that Palm Springs would ever be in my future. But anyway, I came down, stayed with her, went to the tennis tournament. It was spectacular weather. It was 84 at night. It was like 90 something in the daytime. And I just looked around and said, okay, this town is for me. So I came back in April, rented an apartment, and moved May 7th. So it was a 2-month decision period.
Wow.
And my friends, of course, knowing me so well, when I went back to San Francisco and said, okay, I'm moving, and I'm moving next month, they said, oh, yeah, that's so you. You just make the decision, it's God. And I did. I moved here on May 7th, 2015, and just absolutely loved the heat of the desert, the landscape, the spirituality, the people, everything. I love it.
It's a pretty amazing place. It really, really is. And but you didn't grow up in San Francisco, did you? Where did you originally grow up?
Oh, heavens no. I actually grew up on a farm. I'm from northern Saskatchewan in Canada. Lived there, went to school in Calgary, Alberta, and after university or college, I moved to New York City in 1990. No, pardon me, 1979. 90 was moving to San Francisco. So I lived first in New York, worked in advertising for 11 years, and did art direction, catalog photography, set design, propping, all of that sort of thing.
Oh my goodness. So what made you, like, from all of that your background sounds so amazing, was becoming a art commissioner like on your radar of things that you wanted to do?
Well, the arts always have been, because my degree is actually journalism, but I majored in advertising and public relations. But I specifically did this college program because I wanted to study photography. Mm-hmm. And my parents, being sort of the very wise parents that parents should be, I guess, because I wanted to go to an arts college and just study fine arts photography. But they said, Russell, we want you to be able to work and make a living. So studied journalistic photography because they thought it would be more of a career path.
Mhm.
So that's how I got involved in the arts. But I've always been interested in the arts. I've drawn, I've sketched, I've painted. I don't do any of that now, but over the course since I was a kid, art has always been part of my soul.
And when you became a commissioner, what was one of your first projects that you decided to embark upon?
Well, before I answer that question, I'm going to go back to the how I became an arts commissioner.
Okay, perfect.
Because they said we've got a similar story.
Mhm.
So I moved here in 2015 in May. I did a pop-up art gallery for the Desert AIDS Project in December of that year at the current offices of Angel View in Cathedral City.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd met a program director at DAP, and he was interested in figuring out how to tap into their artists of their community and give them a showcase. So I said, well, look, I've done numerous pop-up galleries in San Francisco. Let's do a pop-up gallery for them. And so we did that for the month of December of 2015. Met a couple of friends there. So this one friend and I, February of 2016, when the Arts Commission was sponsoring the juried art show at the Desert Arts Center, my friend Will and I went, and just happened to be one of the commissioners, Joshua Edmonds, was there. We struck up a conversation. So it was he who encouraged me to apply for the Arts Commission and told me all about it. So I applied first in 2016, didn't get the appointment, then I reapplied in 2017 and was appointed in 2017. And unfortunately, Josh was no longer here. I've heard apparently he's moved away, so I never got to be on the commission with him, whereas we get to be on the commission together. So our bond is there for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the up and coming projects that you have coming, and a little bit about the project that we met. Like, how did that project, the street celebration in October, how did that start? And what projects you have coming up?
Well, the one that we met, that was during the 30-year celebration of the formation of the Arts Commission. So we did a year-long series of events, and the street event where we met was sort of the culmination of that. So it was just sort of in the plans and part of what we were celebrating. So I'm trying to think now actually what my first project was. Because for me, coming from the background of doing sort of larger temporary art installations and / murals, that's sort of my strong point and my main interest. So I haven't yet managed to convince a lot of the commissioners that we should do larger scale art installations, like the car that's going to come in front of the museum, like that sort of thing. And I was sort of disappointed because year before last, after Desert X of 2019, there were a couple of installations that I wanted us to jump on and do temporary installation, but I couldn't get the votes. It's like, because the commissioners weren't used to taking a chunk of money. And generally you're talking $25,000 to $35,000 to pay for an installation for a period of 6 months to a year. Yeah. They thought that was a lot of money. And it's like, no, I did arts installations for 7 years. 25,000 is a deal. And we did, in our park, we actually did 2 site-specific installations where we created the vision, hired the artist, and made a very site-specific piece. And then we also relied on the Black Rock Arts Foundation, which I would like us to start tapping into, as we tried to with the Coachella Arts Festival, is get art that already exists, whether it's here in the Coachella Valley or up in the Bay Area, which is very accessible. Just throw it on the back of a truck and bring it down and install it.
Right.
So that would be one of my main things as we get back into the groove in September. And I have to reapply for my commission seat at the end of December. So if I get reappointed, I will put more energy into that for my next 3 years.
And tell us more about your bench projects.
Well, I'm going to go backwards a little bit more, though. there was the first sort of main thing I did commission a local artist, Michael Bernberg, for this piece of art, it's kind of funny because it had sort of many inceptions as to the size and scale, and it had many locations. So it was an ongoing process, but it's the powder-coated steel art installations that's behind the Desert Art Center.
Mm-hmm.
It says moment, movement, change.
Mm-hmm.
Big. It's sort of like 10 feet by 20 to 30 feet wide sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the first things that I actually worked on, was commissioning this artist to do a site specific. And it was originally going to be, I think, in the art pit where the babies and the Ryan Campbell mural is. And then it was going to be on the graffiti art park. And then it was going to be across from the museum where the car is going to be. Then it was going to be at the visitor center up by Tramway. And then it ended up at the Desert Art Center. So that was sort of a big initiation, is dealing with something that had so many moving ingredients and whatever. So
you're not flexible at all. No.
I would totally go with the flow. It doesn't work here. Well, let's do it there. Yeah.
And do you find that the goals that you have for the upcoming seasons, like those particular projects, will help the Coachella Valley heal? And also on the vibe of healing, tell us more about the mural that you commissioned, that you helped get commissioned.
The one that got me in trouble.
Tell us, Russell, how controversial you really are.
Well, see, for me, coming from the background where I had my own art coalition, we're used to doing things sort of slightly outside of the rules. So that has been one of the challenging things for me on the Arts Commission, is having to sort of work within the box,
yes,
so to say. But with this particular, with the George Floyd mural in particular, for me, the importance of having this mural done immediately when the incident happened sort of superseded following all of the rules. So, and we were presented with this wonderful artist, Mr. Alex, who was willing to come up from LA to do the mural, thanks to our companion that we work with, Pete Salcido from Flat Black Art Supply. And I said, okay, Pete, I'll look around, I'll find a building, and which we did. And there were a few options, but this one was finally the one that seemed the most perfect for it. And yes, we did the mural without the building owner's permission, but I knew that we would get it. So, and I knew we would get the approval from the city. And so we just sort of did it backwards, but in my heart, we needed to do it right now. And I was a little bit disappointed with City Council, and they wouldn't have come to us and said, look, this is happening all across the country and even all across the globe. Or like the mayor of Washington, D.C. painted Black Lives Matter on the street. It's now in New York. It's in my old neighborhood in San Francisco. And we were sitting here doing nothing. The City Council should have come to us and said, find an artist, do a mural, find a location, and just do it. They were not quite as agreeable, but we've dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's now. so it's done. So that has sort of led into doing the CARE project of sort of miniature or mini art activations. So we have two going on right now, the one at Hunters on Arenas. We have Lucia Leone painting on the store that was formerly called Diane's Beachwear at Mercado Plaza. And then we've got an artist lined up to do one at Oscar's, incorporating one of their side windows, which faces Talkwitz on the north side. And we're going to incorporate that design into all of their planter boxes, which are on wheels that will roll around their patio. And it's going to have a Black Lives Matter theme and an LGBTQ matters theme. Nice. So incorporating the two.
Very, very cool. And
yes, sorry, just need to interrupt. So just to follow up with doing the George Floyd mural and then doing these smaller art activations, this will lead us up into our fall season when you and I can sit down together and plan for something bigger and more extravagant at the Jesse O. James Center or other parts around town, because people will now see all of these miniature art activations, it's like, wow, this really makes our city look lively and exciting. And we're starting to incorporate sort of positive messages moving forward as we hopefully figure out how to deal with COVID-19 and how we come out of that. And so powerful messages of support, love, gratitude, that sort of thing.
And when will the bench project, going back to that, when will the bench project be completed? Is that ongoing for 2020, 2021, or is that something that has an end date?
Well, it has an end date only when we finish painting all of the benches. And there's apparently like 130 something of them. So we have a ways to go. Yeah, so we will do just as we did, because last year when we did the test pilot project with Tyson Knight, we needed to have, because this was a test pilot project, so we needed to pick one artist, sort of a controlled situation where he's doing them all. So figuring out the prepping, the priming, the painting, the sealing, all of that sort of thing. We let them sit for a number of months and say, okay, they're standing up. We had to do a little bit of touch up. So now we were ready for the second round. So we approached the Main Street merchants because it's their neighborhood and asked them, okay, we've done the test pilot project where Tyson and I selected where we were going to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Now we will ask you, what blocks do you want to have done? And they selected the blocks that we're currently doing, which is the one block south and one block north of Amato on Palm Canyon.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more? I know we talked a little bit about it, but can you talk to us more about the care programs, like for businesses that are out there, and also about the neighborhood programs that people don't know what public arts are available to them
Mm-hmm.
right now in the city, even though we're under COVID-19 restrictions?
Right. Well, yeah, and I'm very glad that we as a commission have formed these programs,
Mm-hmm.
because just in general, it seems like the Arts Commission sort of operates in a little bubble, and people in the city don't really know what this bubble does. Occasionally there will be a piece of art show up. So we have over the last couple of years, and fortunately have Madalena Garza, who's an amazing social media person, who is just, she's burst our bubble, shall we say. So just making us more visible to the community. And with the care program, we realized that because we're in such an extremely challenging time, that we had to figure out a way of, number one, to get money into artists' pockets, support our local talent, and to support our local businesses. So it was that the need to combine those two things with figuring out that and we were very fortunate, we did this in February, which was our, other than last week, it was our last official meeting, which was your first meeting, I believe. Mm-hmm. So we approved the funds for it. So that allowed us to then move forward with these smaller grants. And most of these smaller projects, like the windows that were getting painted, the budgets are like $800. So that's a no-brainer. It's so easy, and it's a remarkable impact to the community for such a small amount of money.
Right.
And then wanting to share the goal of this citywide is picking, okay, at a council district, you all can apply for 2 grants, and they can be larger ones so we can do something that has a little bit more impact. So that's why working with the Little Tuscany neighborhood, they've apparently found an artist. They want to do an installation on a median over here on Vistacino and Palm Canyon.
Oh, very cool.
So it's great. So we're gradually getting the word out more through our social media and advertising on our website and our Facebook page, drawing artists in. I'm thrilled that we've got so many new artists registering on our artist registry, because I pulled one today for one of the next windows that we're going to do, which is on Full Cycle down at the Rowan Hotel.
Yes.
So this terrific artist, David, let me refer to my notes, David Travis. He and I are going to meet there tomorrow, but we've already talked about the concept, because his art is very sort of cubist, colorful. He does these sort of hexagon shaped things. So it's going to try to incorporate some of the architecture of the Rowan Hotel, but with a lot of color that's going to balance well with the stainless steel of Isabel, which is right adjacent to the windows. So we wanted to strike, because we didn't want to have anything that's going to compete with her, but complement her. Mm-hmm. So being that she's all polished stainless steel, having these windows that were just bright, bold colors, it'll probably reflect off of her in part. So, and I think we're going to try to incorporate a word like grateful or gratitude, just to add that extra dimension to the art and message.
Well, Russell, you bring so much beauty and so much excitement to Palm Springs. We love having you on the commission. I love working with you. There's so many great so many more projects that you
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, because we've brought, as I said, we've really got to get, because I'm excited. Well, I want to back up. I talk too much.
No, it's not.
The one project that we did that garnished the most attention, social media and all of the buzz, was the graffiti art park. And I was thrilled to be able to do that, because for me, doing the art that's very edgy and modern is my thing. That's what I'm about. And when I moved to Palm Springs, it's like, oh my God, this town is so beige. So we really need to embrace that. And unfortunately, we got Isabel installed, so it's one of the best artists in the world. So we are bringing ourselves, we the Arts Commission, are bringing Palm Springs into this 21st century.
Yes. And with that, we are going to thank you so much for
have we talked for another hour? Come on, Chanda.
gracing us with your presence and telling us so much about the upcoming projects that are coming up. And also, Russell mentioned the directory. Go online if you're a local artist, or if you're an artist anywhere. Go on to the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission website and fill out our directory. And like you just heard here today, Russell pulls from that directory of street art and beautiful art that's going to be put down in downtown Palm Springs and all over Palm Springs and the
Oh yeah, the artist registry is a great thing, because actually, case in point, yesterday, Sarah and I were battling for one of the same artist, because she wanted this guy for a project. I won't say the name. He said, okay, when you've contacted, I'll find somebody else. So I scrolled through the registry, and this guy, David, whose work has a similarity to the other artists who have actually met. I met him at a group show. Well, not really a group show, but he was with a show with one of my most favorite artists in the Coachella Valley, Philip K. Smith.
Oh, wow.
If this town could reach deep into their pockets and get a Philip K. Smith installation somewhere, I could die and go to heaven the next day.
Well, it sounds like a project we should work on. Thank you so much, Russell. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Chanda.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us again.